Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and today we are going to be simply talking about the iPhone 6s compared to the iPhone 10. The phones have 2 years between them in release, and yet are miles different when it comes to how they are used, how they perform, and pretty much everything. We're going to be talking about whether or not you should upgrade to the iPhone 10 if you're on the 6s, as well as which you should buy if you're in the market for a new phone. So without further ado, let's get right into this.
So maybe you have a 6S right now, or maybe you're considering one and are wondering how it stacks up against the best iPhone, being the 10. Obviously, the biggest difference right off the bat is the design with that beautiful 5.8-inch OLED display on the iPhone 10. I love it, and there's no doubt that it looks way better and more vibrant than the 6S. The 6S has an LCD display with the size of either 4.7 inches or 5.5 inches, depending if you're looking at the normal or plus model. The resolution of the 10 is a stunning 1125 by 2436, with a pixel density of 458 ppi. In contrast, the smaller 6S has a resolution of 750 by 1334 and a pixel density of 326 pixels per inch, while the Plus has a resolution of 1080 by 1920 and 401 pixels per inch. So while the numbers on the 10 might not sound massively higher than the 6S, the screen looks much better, mainly due to the Super Retina display that allows colors to be more vibrant and accurate. Blacks actually look black on the iPhone 10, and the difference is absolutely stunning. So if you're wanting the best possible display, the 10 is the way to go without a doubt. The 6S design in general just doesn't look or feel as premium as the 10s, but honestly that's probably not the biggest issue here. It's a pretty old design that we've seen a lot since the iPhone 6, being, the 6, the 6S, the 7, the 8. They all kind of shared this similar look, and that's not going to appeal to a lot of people. If you want change, the 10 is definitely the way to go. The 6S comes in an aluminum enclosure and is noticeably thinner and lighter than the 10, but when holding it next to the glass and stainless steel of the 10, I would much prefer the heft when it comes with the better design, at least in my opinion. Now hold on, that's my opinion. The 6S for a lot of people is going to make more sense practically. It's lighter and it's thinner by like a really large margin. When you're holding the two in your hands, you can definitely tell. The 10 is very kind of chunky and hefty in comparison. The 6S is also extremely durable, and because it doesn't have the glass back, it's not going to crack on the back, meaning it's probably going to last you a lot longer if you're somebody who's kind of rough with their phone. You could, not use a case on the 6S and be okay, but with the 10, you're going to definitely want one just in case. Plus, if you break the screen on the 6S, a lot cheaper than replacing the screen on the 10. Both phones have 3D touch, but the 10 is missing the headphone jack found on the 6S as well as Touch ID. The 10 instead has Face ID and a few neat features such as wireless and fast charging, as well as water resistance. Biggest takeaway from here, for most, is the headphone jack. If that's something you consider a necessity, then the 6S is definitely the phone to go for. The 6S Plus is the best iPhone with a headphone jack. If you need the headphone jack and you really like iPhone, 6S Plus is the way to go, or I guess the 6S would work too. And let me just touch on wireless charging for a sec here. Wireless charging is extremely convenient. Having on my iPhone 10 has been awesome. It's really nice when I go to bed just to drop it on the pad and not have to worry about it. So there are definitely conveniences that you gain from getting the 10, as well as water resistance. Again, if you drop the 6S in the toilet, good luck. If you drop the 10 in the toilet, no big deal. I mean, just don't drop it in the toilet in the first place, but regardless, let's move on. Specification wise, they are both powerhouses, but the 10 has it beat easily with the Apple A11 chipset as opposed to the A9 chipset, as well as 3 gigs of RAM compared to 2 gigs. The iPhone 10 is a beast, it's just ridiculously fast in everything. You can definitely tell when comparing it to the 6S, but honestly the 6S isn't too bad either. And while it's much worse on iOS 11 than it was on 10, it still holds up pretty well considering it's already 2 years old. Support wise, the 6S should be supported up until iOS 13, while the 10 will probably get until iOS 15. So if you're looking down the road, obviously the 10 is going to be the winner. It was just released, so that's no surprise. But the 6S is going to be updated for quite a while. These are assuming Apple follows the patterns that they've kind of set in place, so they could turn out differently than this. We just gotta wait and see. The 6S boasts a high quality 12 megapixel rear camera with the ability to shoot 4K at 30 frames per second. The 6S Plus also has optical image stabilization, which is a nice feature to have. The 6S camera looks really good. It was one of my favorite features of it when I originally got it back in June. I liked it, I really did, and I still do. However, the 10 is better. it's in a different league. The 10 has a dual 12 megapixel camera setup on the back, with one of the lenses being a normal wide lens and one of them being a telephoto lens. Much like the 7 Plus, essentially we're able to zoom in 2 times optically without losing quality. This is an extremely useful feature, and what's great is that both lenses have optical image stabilization, which means video has never looked better than it does on the 10. It can film at 4K at 24, 30, or even 60 frames per second, which is just insane. Now, for most people, that's overkill. You don't need that for most people, but what will attract a lot of people is portrait mode on the 10, which allows you to blur the background behind the subject as well as choose some neat lighting effects. It's very cool, but probably isn't a deal breaker for most people if you can't get it. Front-facing camera is pretty good on the 10 with 7 megapixels and the ability to shoot 1080p at 30 frames per second as well as portrait mode. The 6S has a worse 5 megapixel camera with again the ability to shoot 1080p at 30 frames per second. Really, unless you're super into selfies or really like that portrait mode, the 6S camera won't be too much of a downgrade. Haptic feedback, which if you don't know what that is, you probably don't need to worry about it. It's just the vibrations of the phone. Feels better on the 10. It's quieter and is just better for whatever reason. So again, I've said that the iPhone 6S has Touch ID, and since it has Touch ID, it also has the home button versus the iPhone 10 having no home button. This is going to be a big deal for some people as gestures aren't going to appeal to everybody. I like it a lot. I really like going through the UI, it feels smooth, it feels like the future, and I really enjoy using it. The 6S, however, is classic. It's what we've always had, and I don't think you're gonna have too many complaints when going through it. So if you're on it right now, honestly, as much as gestures are really awesome, gestures are only one factor of this phone. There are a lot of pretty cool things with it, so at the end of the day, it's up to you. So those are some of the basics of both phones, but which is the better buy? And if you already have a 6S, should you upgrade? Let's look at the price. The 10 starts at $1,000 for the 64GB model, while the 6S starts at $450 for the 32GB model. Although to be fair, you can find it used for quite a bit cheaper. That's a pretty big price difference. The 6S is less than half the price of the iPhone 10. And so when it comes to value, 6S is a much better buy. It's still pretty speedy, has a decent camera, good camera I would even say. It gets the job done at the end of the day. The 10 is super expensive, and it's for that reason I wouldn't necessarily recommend upgrading to it or buying it over the 6S unless you really want the best of the best. It's going to be super fast, it's going to have an amazing camera, but really the main attraction for most is going to be that beautiful display. It's really, really nice. But I mean, if that doesn't really thrill you or make you excited, then the 6S is probably going to be your better bet. So if you're okay with a few compromises, 6S will do you just fine, and for the average person, I'd say go for the 6S. But if you're more of a power user and you really just love having the best smartphone on the market right now, 10 could be for you. But again, when you look straight at value, the 6S is definitely a better deal. You are paying a pretty big premium for the 10. If you look around on eBay or Amazon, you'll probably even find a refurbished or used model at more like $300, which is super solid. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and if this helped you out at all or you enjoyed it, please leave a like and consider subscribing if tech is your thing. Comment your thoughts down below. Is the 10 worth over double the price of the 6S? I want to hear what you think. Thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and without further ado, I will see you all next time.